Hey everybody, welcome back, and The Walking Dead is back. We are here to review Season 9, Episode 1, A New Beginning. This is Chris, and as usual with me for The Walking Dead reviews is Jason.
Brains.
Okay, alright, that's kind of how he's feeling from what he was telling me, is that he's kind of feeling like a walker himself right now. College is not being nice to you, Jason.
Paramedic school is not being nice to me, yeah.
Alright. Well, you know, as a paramedic, if the zombie apocalypse happens, you are guaranteed to die.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's okay, it's something to look forward to.
Medics do not stay around. Real quick, going into this, I don't know if you saw this or not. We actually didn't talk about this before the show. But there was a real death in the Walking Dead family. The actor who plays Herschel passed away yesterday. Or it was yesterday or it was Saturday.
Oh, well, that sucks.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought his name. Scott Wilson passed away from a fight with cancer. It's noteworthy for a couple of reasons. One, and when we used to all watch The Walking Dead together, you know what I mean. You and I in a group of us back in the between like season 4 and 6 is when I think we used to do that.
Yep.
The death of Herschel was something I made sure to keep my mouth shut about because I knew it was coming. I was almost positive he was going to die at the prison attack because that's when he dies in the comic. And even though the Herschel in the TV show was 10 times better character than what he was in the comic, there was one person in particular, I'm sure you remember, Grayson, was particularly upset about this.
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember.
I remember when that was the mid-season finale for season 4, and then when it came back, I'm like, no, you got to make sure to watch because there's going to be just his head. And she's like, no, I don't want to watch it. No, you got to see it. It's great. It's just his head. Michonne takes care of it. Don't worry. I think the standout character, Scott Wilson did a great job with this character. He made it into a much bigger role. Initially, Herschel was going to die at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
Obviously they didn't because they enjoyed. So that was actually going to be long before his comic death. But they liked what Scott Wilson did with this so much that they obviously grew it into a much bigger role. And I think one of the most endearing characters from the show. Very, very sad to see. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Without a doubt, he's definitely, in a cast of colorful characters, Herschel still sticks in the memory.
He really does.
It stands as a testament to Scott's ability to act.
Yeah, it's a real shame. They, most of the stuff was already recorded before the show. Now, one of the things that is interesting, but it's also noteworthy, is that he had reprised his role for this season.
Really?
Yeah, and obviously in some kind of flashback capacity. John Barathol, who plays Shane, has done the same thing. We're gonna see Shane at some point this season, obviously in some kind of flashback or some kind of something like that. So obviously, the character's not alive. We're going to see that as well. It was unclear. This was actually announced just this weekend at the New York Comic-Con. Unfortunately, just hours before they announced his passing. What isn't clear is if he had recorded, or I should say, acts, and if they'd shot all of the role that he was going to play. But he did do some of it. So that's kind of weird. We're gonna see Herschel. But the actor's passed away.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be strange. I wonder if they'll decide to actually keep the footage in or maybe make some rewrites.
I bet they absolutely will. I would have to think that if anything, they'll have to reshoot some things to use a stand-in maybe from the back or something if they didn't get everything shot. I think they absolutely will as an homage to it. He is most known for his role as Herschel. He's a huge actor that has over 50 credits to his name, but everybody remembers him as Herschel. I think it was his favorite role, if not one of them. I think absolutely you would. I know in some cases it depends on depends on the franchise and what the actor or actress would want if they pass away. Carrie Fisher obviously being a big name for that as well, and what people wanted to have done with that. I think in this case they absolutely will use it. And I think that would be the proper homage for this particular situation. But really, really sad. Great character. He brought that one to life and just, knocked it out. I think even as long as this series goes, for as long as it goes, and as many stories as they tell, I definitely think the 3 seasons we had with Herschel is going to be some of the standout stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we're going to move on. A New Beginning, season 9, episode 1. We've been waiting on this. What's going to happen? Where's the world going to be? What are they going to do? Overall feelings, Jason, of this season premiere for season 9. What'd you think overall?
I enjoyed it, but not as much as I feel like I should have. You and I were talking about this a little bit. There's something, I don't know, like there's nothing that I could pick out that I was like, this was a bad episode. It was a good episode overall. It was competent. We had a good pace for the progression. It had everything that I usually like in The Walking Dead. There just felt like there was something missing. I still can't place my finger on it, but it didn't have that Walking Dead magic that I remember from when we used to gather around and watch it as a group, with bated breath, like the stuff with the governor and the prison and all that.
Agreed. Yeah, I really enjoyed the episode, but there's something missing, and again, we were talking about this before the show a little bit, just to center our thoughts and get focused a little. I think there's a number of things going on here with The Walking Dead at this point. I'm not quite sure what to put my finger on it. This is something that you and I, when we had originally discussed doing these reviews, like, we're going to do this to the end. And now we're not even so sure. We've committed to doing the last episodes for Rick Grimes this season, and we're going to go from there. And we're going to see where things are. But when we first got into this, like, all right, we've been huge fans since the beginning. We know we're past the hump on this show, but we were committed to, reviewing and in a sense documenting how the series ends itself. But we're not even there anymore. I think it's a number of things. I think, I don't know. It's tough to say, but all right. So let's get a little bit more short-sighted on it. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought they did a really good job of putting us into this world now. We're a year and a half in. What's happened? Where is everyone? What's going on? There's been no major deaths during that time. That's kind of obvious. But everyone's separated.
Absolutely. Our band has split up, Mm-hmm. The other thing was that I really appreciated that they at least, they didn't give everyone equal screen time, but they touched on pretty much anybody you were aware of. Like, there were no moments where I was like, well, what happened to this character? They did a pretty good job at showing us where everyone we wanted to know about ended up.
Well, okay, so they did do that. You saw basically every named character that we had at the end of season 8 is still around, and you got to see them all 10,000 of them, because there is a lot of them. There's a lot. It's a huge cast. And you got to see them all. I thought the whole thing at the I don't know the actual name. They shot it at the Georgia State Capitol, but it is supposed to be a recreation of a museum in Washington, D.C., which I was really happy to see that, considering they've been so close to Washington, D.C. I was always hoping that they'd eventually go there, and they did, and I was really happy to see that. And I thought the whole thing at the beginning with getting the cart and the farming tools and everything, and I thought that was really good. Now we got to see a fair amount of that. We knew that scenario was coming. But it was a lot of fun, and it's my understanding they did a pretty faithful recreation of this museum at the Georgia Capitol. Here's my only complaint about it is that when you've got Ezekiel dangling on the rope. And the rope is the rope is getting cut because obviously there's sharp glass everywhere. How the hell did Ezekiel not get cut getting pulled up?
Yeah. Yeah, I have that down a little bit later in my notes, but let's talk about that now. You know, Ezekiel's not a small guy by any stature, and, you know, getting pulled up by a rope isn't like, you know, a straight up pull. These are people pulling this rope, you know?
Right.
They're gonna swing.
Yeah, so you noticed that watching it too. It's like, man, how, because I'm actually watching that before they get him pulled up. I'm like, how are they going to pull him up without cutting the shit out of his abdomen?
Yeah. It was like, well, that's unrealistic.
It was. It's kind of, she kind of took me out of it. But you know, continuing outside of that, I thought the whole scenario was really cool. You get to see the usefulness of some of these new characters, in particular Anne, whatever, I forget her original name, what the trash lady, queen of the trash people.
Yep.
What was her name? Do you remember? I don't even remember. It doesn't matter.
It's been a while.
They make note to say that she was a teacher, and that, you know, which I think is really useful, and, you know, showed it in that particular situation. She knows that the university, the museum, is going to have all these seeds.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, oh, that's pretty damn smart. All right. You know, that being said, a lot of the characters were very extra. Like Rosita was there, but we hardly saw her. Enid was there, but we hardly saw her. What's the name of the lady from Oceanside? The young girl? Do you even remember? I don't even remember.
No.
Yeah.
She didn't even have that much screen time last season.
No. She actually had a few lines here though with Daryl, which was nice. But, you know, it was cool that we got to see everybody together, because I think in Walking Dead fashion, which I think has been a problem for the last couple seasons, and it's a problem they bring on themselves by having such a large cast. I think this is the first and the only time we're going to see everybody together.
Yeah.
So there it is. I think that's the best you're going to get. Overall, did you enjoy this scenario though? Besides the Ezekiel error there, you know, it was pretty cool that we got some shots to see how the various places are doing, the evolution of Alexandria. I don't know, the changes to the sanctuary. You can't really call it an evolution. They're having problems. We'll get to that. Hilltop's doing really well. We didn't see Oceanside or the Kingdom. I'm sure we will. But overall, I think they did a really good job in the opening few minutes of really kind of showing us through action and not telling us, you know, how the world has changed and how they've adapted to living as a larger organization. These smaller communities as a larger organization together.
Yeah.
You know, there's people running routes. They're keeping the roads clear. They've named the different routes. You know, there's communication and there's strategy and the such.
Yeah, you know, it was a good example of show not tell, and I really appreciate that. Whenever we see it, you know, I think that's a much better way to approach things rather than, you know, an expositional dump between two characters.
Yeah. Now, of course, and I think he was the. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was the only part of that group that went to the museum, university, whatever it was. That wasn't a part of the season last season. Ken,
yes,
who gets his ass kicked, and well, not just his ass kicked. He gets, man, what a way to go! Get your arm cut off and get stomped by a horse, and then die.
Yup.
God.
Out of painful deaths in The Walking Dead, that's up there.
It really is, you know. And I was joking around in my head. I'm like, you know, maybe that horse was helping him out. He's like, man, you just got bit? Oh, no, I'm just going to end this for you. Don't worry about it. You've been good to me, but I'm just going to make this quick for you. You know, I thought that was important. They, you know, as much as they've got a lot of stuff together and they're getting along in this world and thriving for the most part, the common dangers of this world still exist. And I thought that was important that they showed that and how they showed that.
Yeah. It is without a doubt still the the Wild West, for lack of a better term. Like as much as we like to think of this area between these communities as sort of well populated and well traversed. Walkers roam. You never know when overnight something's gonna come in and fuck you up. Although, in putting a counterpoint to that, there's enough people here that you could have pretty regular patrols walking the roads, just clearing out walker congressions wherever you find them, small hordes.
Well, they do. I think they tried pointing it out. I say that with a bit more assurance than maybe you would if you didn't read the comics, but because they did show us this a little bit with Aaron and Jesus, that is actually a whole thing.
Okay.
Something that they kind of alluded to here a little bit. I don't know if you caught on to this or not. I don't know if it's just me and what I know of what's coming in the future. They kind of made a big deal about herds.
Yeah, that didn't really poke up on my radar at all.
Okay, and we're going to see some more of that, but it kind of made sense to me that after all this time, because we're looking at 4 years now, 4 years plus of a zombie apocalypse, that most walkers are going to end up herded together, which makes sense because I mean they're dumb, mindless things, and they like to join up anyways. But I mean, after years, I would have to think that most instances of finding walkers would be in a herd capacity, be them small or large, and that you wouldn't find just a lot of random ones all over the place.
Maybe. I mean, that. I suppose that depends on how the walkers act when there are no people around. And this is something that like maybe you could shine a little more light on. I was never sure whether the walkers really did much when people weren't around, like when there wasn't an active food source, or whether they just kind of hung out, like powered down, for lack of a better term. They just they go into like a semi-hibernative state where they just wait for food to come by, and that's how they work, or whether they were more active than that, and they're like, there's no food here, gotta go look for food.
I think in the Walking Dead world, we've seen more than anything. They will actually just kind of go to sleep. We see a lot of instances where a walker is just kind of laying, and looks like it might be a dead walker. But in fact, we saw it at the beginning of the show where the one's laying against the car, but he gets something triggers him, so he starts getting up. He's like, it was kind of funny because he just seems like a lazy, tired. He's like, all right, something's coming. I'll get up.
And that's sort of not really conducive to the whole herd thing, because if they're not actively searching for food, then why would they herd together? And if so, why would these herds be mobile?
Well, I would say, and I think it's a bit situational, but I will definitely stick to my guns on saying that walkers will end up staying in a pack, because. So let's say the walker in the front of a herd, to which there would probably be several, is like, what are we doing again? Not that they really have a lot of thought function, but then would immediately hear the walker next to him and be like, oh, that's what we're doing. Did you get my meaning?
Yeah, sure.
That in a herd situation, they will just keep moving. I'm sure there's some stragglers, groups that get pulled off, distracted from one thing or another, or one that just gets distracted by something. But I tend to, it just makes sense to me that walkers in general will end up packing and staying that way. But I think a large herd could end up moving continuously until something stops them, just because one will trigger off the other as an inevitable and continuous cycle.
Gotcha. Alrighty.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember where we left off in the plot before we got sidetracked into herding.
Sure. Well, okay. So yeah, we'll keep going with it. So a couple of interesting things that needs to be noted. Let's see. What do you think about Judith? Is that Rick's kid or not?
I'm gonna go with no.
Are you going to go with no, but are you just going with it because it's the more salacious answer?
No, I'm gonna go with it mostly because it doesn't super look like Rick. You know,
Yeah,
like
but
maybe.
she's 3.
I mean, I
So,
guess, but
if she had like super curly black hair, I'd be like, that's Shane's kid.
yeah.
That is all day
There's
long
the
Shane's
thing.
kid.
We won't know until later. But by the time we know the answer, Rick won't know the answer.
That's true. If by the age of 4, she grabs a shotgun and she's like, it's time to stop playing games. Like, that's Shane's kid. That's definitely Shane's kid.
No.
But I don't know. I think it's Rick's. I think it's Rick's. We got a 50-50 on it. I think that's his biological daughter. I don't know. Maybe we'll never find out. Again, in the comics, she's long been dead. She died at the prison, so we've never seen that. Interesting though. I mean, she's going to be the last Grimes.
Yeah, she will be.
So Judith Grimes, will we ever see her kicking ass? Probably not.
Just wait. Next season, they're going to make a massive time jump, like 10 years ahead, just so they can bring in a new person to play Judith and be like, "Look, we still got a Grimes."
Yeah. They might do something. Carol and Ezekiel are a thing.
Yes, they are. Despite Carol's attitude towards the whole thing.
I think it's an interesting connection. I think I know why they did it. I won't say anything more than that. But it makes sense, though. It kind of does. I mean, at some point she's like, all right, well, I'm getting kind of horny, so. All right, and he's not a bad guy. One of the better points of last season was the evolution of their relationship. I actually was not surprised to see them together. Let's see. I think the most interesting thing, though, is that the home base for Daryl, Eugene, and Rosita is the sanctuary.
Yeah, well, I mean, that makes sense to me. You know, like you want to keep people there, like especially in a leadership position. It's sort of like the real world when we knock over another country's leader, and we sort of just shove a puppet in there,
Shove up. Yeah, he just fisted a puppet.
Yeah, more or less, you're exerting your own control over the people. It's an extension of the dictatorship.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what I was expecting. I know in the comic, Dwight initially, after the time jump, is in charge of the sanctuary.
Gotcha.
I don't think we're going to see him again in the show, though. I think they just kind of ended that whole thing. Daryl just kind of drives him off with the truck, gives him the keys, like, all right, we don't ever want to see you ever again, and that's the end of Dwight. So, I guess it makes sense. Eugene, I think, makes the most sense. He actually did kind of go there as a home. Rosita doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it kind of seems like Rosita and Daryl, who are the only two who have actual functioning vehicles with engines at this point. I guess it kind of makes sense if they're kind of like scouts and such, and that they both come from the same place.
Yeah.
Daryl does make I guess a good bit of sense. He puts Rick's going to want somebody in there who's going to be that he trusts wholeheartedly. Definitely, I think coming out of the war, that is not Eugene. So even though he did what he did at the end, you got to build that trust back, I think.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was interesting. We have not seen. Well, we barely saw Alexandria.
Yeah.
We barely saw it at all. We haven't seen the Kingdom yet. We haven't seen Oceanside. They did mention that Eugene and Rosita were going to Oceanside, but I don't think that's a permanent thing. I think what we're going to find is that these people travel around through these communities quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, but there's really not a lot of the main crew left in Alexandria.
No.
Not even just the original crew, but named people. I think Aaron calls the hilltop his home now. At least he kind of went there after his boyfriend died last season. So you got Michonne and Rick and Gabriel and Anne. But who else? Tara? Maybe Tara?
Maybe.
Yeah. There's not a lot.
No,
not a lot.
really not.
No, it's kind of interesting. All right, but everyone's everywhere, and Daryl doesn't even like that. He's like, man, when we were a small group, that was the stuff. And he's not wrong, and I think that hits home for a lot of the fans because they're like, yeah, that was the best time when you guys were all one small group. But at the same time, I think you can understand Rick's. At least I can understand Rick's perspective of, well, hey, in building this larger world in this community, I need people at different places that I can trust, people that I know I can rely on to make smart decisions.
And that makes sense with the plot, but I think also it's sort of indicative of what I think has been an issue with the show.
Oh, I agree. I don't think it's a bad thing that they've grown the way they have. I think the problem is how they've approached the storytelling from that perspective. I mean, if you're going to do it, then you got to do it, and you got to do it right. If you're going to make a spin-off, and they're actually talking about another spin-off, then make another spin-off directly connected to this world and just have two shows. And, obviously you're going to have a lot of crossover, but then you can at least tell everybody's story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, if they're bringing plot points over to a spin-off, I think you're going to lose even more fans.
Well, maybe it is an impossible situation. I don't know. I'm certainly, from a comic book fan's perspective, I'm happy to see all these characters brought to life that I've been reading about for years. I don't know. I guess I'm of the opinion that there's a way to do this, but at the same time, I definitely miss when, watching off and on throughout the week, catching the marathon that they had of the whole series up until this point, and catching some of the much older stuff. Man, this was so much more fun, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that nostalgic feeling. But yeah, I think there's something to that as well.
Yeah.
All right, so Ken gets killed.
Yep.
And we see Maggie breaking into his parents, who, by the way, I have no idea how they've survived the zombie apocalypse because they're both like 10,000 years old. I was shocked by him. Like, wow, he must have been the youngest or something because he's 22 maybe.
Yeah.
And they're like in their 50s or 60s at the youngest.
Mm-hmm. I
was like, what? I mean, were you not shocked by that, or was that just me?
I think it was just you. I don't know. Like it wasn't impossible for me to believe that they had made it. It wasn't reality breaking. They weren't like an 80-year-old with a walker or anything. They were still ambulant.
They're pretty old.
Maybe, but there are lots of 50 and 60-year-olds who still lead very active lifestyles.
Oh, I'm not saying you can't. I'm gonna be one of them, but it was just a little surprising. It's a little surprising for me. Fine, whatever. Screw you, Jason. Surprising for me. Don't back me up. Whatever. All right. So, but old lady's just like, I'm pretty sure she wins the award for 2018 for crotchiest old lady on TV. Good God.
Well, I mean, she was supposed to be getting the news that her kid's dead. I'd be surprised if she wasn't crotchety.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess what I'm leading to overall was that this couple, Ken's parents, really just kind of something felt off about it for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I think part of it was the fact, like, for a couple who's been living in a zombie apocalypse for the 4 years, you are really taking the death of your son a lot worse than I think you should, when I'm sure everybody in your whole life before the apocalypse is dead.
Yeah,
I really didn't like how they reacted to it. I don't know. Maybe they were trying to show the complacency that you'll get into once civilization starts coming up again.
Yeah.
And maybe I took that a little too much. I don't know. But I'm just kind of like, man, people die in this world all the time. I get it, it's your son, but...
Well, I mean, people do die in this world all the time, but if we're judging by the fact that like we're a year in from the war, not too many people have died, so I think there is some logic to that sort of complacency. It seems like they've secured a safer area, so
yeah. I don't know. Okay, yeah. No, I'll take that. I'll take that. But obviously, now from the comic perspective, a fan from someone who's a comic, I knew what they were going to do with this, and they did exactly what they did with Gregory and the whole scenario. What did you think of that whole thing and how that played out? And
I think
from that moment leading up to Gregory's death,
like even for like a grieving father, I think that the dad, Ken's dad, was way too easily convinced into attempted murder. Like, I get we're talking The Walking Dead, but like, you've lived pretty peacefully for the last year, and all of a sudden you're gonna switch that, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go murder Maggie."
Well, especially when he can't. What he said was like, "I don't know what we can do about it," and actually, I think someone's about to tell you, and yeah, he just does it. By the way, with that attempted assassination, did he have a weapon and I missed it?
I
was he gonna choke her out? And what?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Or was the plan the whole time to get her over there and have the attempted assassination just so that Gregory could kill her himself?
Maybe.
I don't know. The whole thing came off a little wonky. Did you freak out when the baby carriage, the push? What was that? What
yeah.
When that fell to the side,
I didn't freak out, but I was like, "Oh boy!" I thought the baby was gonna bite the bullet.
Yeah. Little baby Herschel, been talking about him for a while. There he is.
Yeah.
Little baby Herschel.
Which again sort of flies in the face of the fact that you're a grieving parent. Like, you just lost a kid. Why are you gonna go after another parent?
Yeah. I don't. The whole thing just didn't feel quite right to me. What did feel right to me though was Gregory getting killed.
Oh yeah, the hanging.
That was great.
And then like Michonne coming out and be like, "The children saw."
I thought that was an interesting situation because she's, it's like, are they going to take it like she's trying to stop the hanging? Because you shouldn't kill somebody like that, or is it because of the kids? It looks like they didn't make a big thing out of it. They could have, which was fine. But yeah, again, this scenario plays out in the comic, basically in the way that you saw it. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference. It's a huge thing. Actually, kind of funny because as a comic book fan, I took this in the way they approached the storyline for multiple reasons. I enjoyed it overall, but one, they sped through it pretty damn quickly, and normally, and I think even if you're not a fan of the comics, as someone who watches the show, you probably could have seen this whole thing play out through maybe 4 to 6, even the whole first half of the season before they actually killed Gregory.
Yeah, that things, especially in the last couple of seasons, have not been known for their urgency. So it was refreshing to see that like it was action to consequence to death.
Right.
Self-contained.
And that's something, again, as someone who knew the storyline, and they reenacted it pretty well. There is a big difference, though.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a big difference, and that is the fact that in the comic, they play out a whole scenario before, because Maggie is very torn about whether, because she feels, because Gregory's tried to kill her now, and he's trying to turn people against her, she inevitably feels like, geez, I think I have to kill him. And it's this big, long, drawn-out thing. And it's the fact that there is so much drama behind the decision-making that the town does not turn on her for just killing this guy. You do not see that in this scenario. And I think the intention to that is they're going to let that play out. It's like, wow, she just killed him without really any thought or turmoil about it. And I think that was intentional. I think they're going to let that play out and see how people in the Hilltop react to the fact that there's the death around Gregory's questionable, at least as
Yeah,
far as how they know it went down.
yeah, well, and it would be one thing if turnabout's fair play. If she had just killed him when he was trying to kill her, that everybody gets. Everyone's lived in a zombie apocalypse. They just fought a war. They understand you have to kill. But she went through the trouble of getting him alive only to bring him out for a very public execution.
And I was a little surprised that Rick and Michonne, because again, Michonne was only going to interrupt because the kids came around the corner. They were just going to stand there and watch. I was a little surprised about that.
No, I'm not. We've seen Rick has made a concerted effort. It seems like to sort of curb that more brutal streak he has, but Rick's also not shied away from doing stuff like this in the past.
That's true, but the last time we've seen him in a scenario like this, he saved Negan and again, immediately after he tried to kill him, and then he had the revelation not to.
That's true, but
do you think that's because he's respecting the fact that this is her town, this is her community?
Yeah, and also maybe I think Rick is hoping to see growth in her. There was that whole thing about how Rick agreed to follow her, and then he just straight up didn't. So my running theory during the show was that Rick's hoping that this will promote some sort of change that he's waiting to see in her before he hands off the reins.
I guess I'm just playing a little devil's advocate on it. I could have seen it go either way, but I was a little surprised. I'm like, I could totally see Rick trying to interrupt this. And especially because he had done it before at the end of last season, where Maggie is just distraught, and I don't think anybody would have said anything against Rick actually just killing Negan at the end of that. But it's the fact that he doesn't, and the reaction. I wonder if part of that wasn't Maggie just kind of showing, look, I kill my enemies, and again, because she won't even, as they state, she won't even go to Alexandria because Negan's there.
Yep.
And here she is in a similar situation. My rival tried to kill me. He tried to destroy what we've built for his own selfish needs, and now he's dead. And she did it right in front of Rick. Do you think that was a little bit of this is how we're doing things at the hilltop?
Yeah, I certainly think that some of it was for Rick's benefit, but I think most of it was for everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely her making a statement about how she's not gonna run things necessarily the way that Rick has run things.
Maggie's a different kind of sheriff.
Exactly.
Interesting stuff. Geez, what else have we got here?
Well, that's pretty much how the episode ends.
Yeah. And did you have anything else on your notes?
No, not really. Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty.
I think that's going to do it then. So let's rate this sucker. 4 out of 5 what? God damn it. I will cut that out. All right, so let's rate this thing. What are we going to rate it as, Jason? What out of 5? How many what?
Nooses.
Nooses?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What do you rate it out of 5? 5 nooses. What do you give it?
I'm gonna give it a 4. Just because, again, I don't know what it was, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I felt like I should have.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it had good everything else. It was just missing that magic spark. So I couldn't rate it lower than a 4 because it had, phenomenal everything else.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's really. I give it the same thing, and for the same reasons. This was a great season premiere. This was a great rebuilding of this world that we're getting refamiliarized with after. If you wanted to be done with The Walking Dead, the end of season 8 was a good point to jump off because it's a new show now. As the title of this episode is, it's a new beginning. It's the whole thing's going to get turned upside down this season. It was a good episode. There was a lot of stuff going on here. It's missing the magic. It's missing the magic. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on there. But 4 out of 5 for me as well. Guys, what did you think? Give us your rating for the episode down below. Your feelings. What was your favorite part of the episode? What didn't you like? Let us know. Any last words?
Yeah. Never piss off a brunette.
All right, there you go. All right, so that is going to do it for us. We will be back next week for episode 2. Until then, have a good one.
Hey people, thank you for tuning into this episode and taking a listen. If you like our content, if you like what you're listening to, there anything we go over, hey, please, we would not only love to hear more from you, but it's great if you could throw some support. You can subscribe right below. Also, you can toss us a line anytime. That's ksongmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you can tune in for our channel anytime for movie reviews, game reviews, a lot of random wacky stuff. Who knows what you'll hear. And of course, our episode each week where we're bringing the nerdiest things we can find, dig up, and maybe not find. Maybe the stuff that just drops in our laps. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We hope to hear from you again later. Take care.